believe in big government, small government, that type of thing. I just think, you know, I've always believed in small government because I realize where the money comes from that goes up there. And when we just did a budget here, and Jim's on the Ways and Means Committee, along with you, Laura, and some others, and those guys, they listen to all the testimony about all the money that's going to come into the state and how it's going to be divided up, okay? And believe me, everybody wants a piece of the action. You know, they want that. Because when you're dealing with $28 billion, billion dollars with a B, that's big paper. That's a lot of money, okay? So, you know, and we have, you know, thanks to the leadership of the state and Jeff Espich, who's, somebody says he's kind of like the Alan Greenspan of the state, but Jeff Espich, he's a Republican chairperson of the Ways and Means, and he's been up there 39 years, and, you know, Jim dealt with him for every day, and I really like him a lot. He's, you know, tells it like it is. By golly, y'all feel good at night knowing that he's in charge of your money, because he treats it like he earned every penny of it, and he watches where it goes. And that's the thing about the state of Indiana. You know, when we passed the House and Road Act of 1001, which was the budget bill, okay, on April 29th, about, what time was that, Jim? About 10:15 at night, you know, we passed that thing. But that had a surplus in there of $1.065 billion. Okay, now that's a little over $1 billion. You know, I don't know, is there any other state can say that? There may be one out there, I don't know. But you know, you look at Wisconsin up there, that fiasco, what happened, you know, what are they in debt? Either 6.3 billion, I think, they're in debt, you know, and Illinois, and, you know. But anyway, but when we talk about that kind of money, the 1.65 billion, people say, well, that's a lot of money. Well, when you look at the state of Indiana, they spend about $40 million a day. That's the overhead. And if you do the math on that, that's 26.6 days, less than a month, of surplus that we've got. Okay? That's at the state level. You know, you look at, you know, your situation, your checking account, savings account, you know, you might have more than 1 month's money saved up based on, you know, what you have. Well, if you have that, why don't the state do it? You know, so again, it all goes back to where the money comes from, and it comes from everybody. You know, well, I shouldn't say everybody. Some people don't pay taxes. You know, I don't know what that percentage. What, 47% that don't, or whatever that number is. So, and if you don't pay taxes, sometimes you just lose touch with that. But I'm on some committees. I know Jim's on the Ways and Means, but they put me on the Insurance Committee. They put me, that's my background. They put me on the Natural Resources Committee, and they put me on the Financial Institutions Committee. And I was vice chair of that. I was on the bank board in Clay County for about 15 years, so they thought I knew something about banking, so they put me on that committee, I guess. But Woody Burton is chair of that committee, but it was a good experience in dealing with the different committees and interacting with different people and so forth. But you do learn a heck of a lot. You know, one thing we dealt with, we talked about, you know, Senate Bill 590, you know, the immigration, you know, bill, and we had, you know, we had about 300 people in there demonstrating, you know, on the South Lawn. That one, you know, more than just one day, but especially that one day I remember. And you know, it's now it's kind of like they don't want to say that they're illegal immigrants. It didn't sound good, so they say they're undocumented. You know, it's undocumented now, so that sounds a little bit better. But bottom line is here, they're here illegal. You know, that's the thing. And so the bill that we passed didn't deal with, you know, there's some big discussion about racial profiling. You know, maybe a police officer could stop them, and if they look Mexican, then they can stop them. Good enough reason. Well, This bill that we passed, though, it did not deal with that, but it dealt with e-verify. Okay, so if XYZ company is going to hire an individual, you know, they have to, there's documentation. Oh, I'm sorry about that, I forgot about that. That was my 28-year-old daughter, but let me get this. But anyway, it was about, but anyway, that was something that is going to, you know, go after those, I don't say go after the companies as much, but anyway, there's going to be some type of accountability of who are you hiring and where are you from type of thing, okay? So it's, and I think that kind of goes back to, you know, you look at what the feds have done or haven't done over the last several years. You know, they just don't deal with it. And, you know, you talk about the borders and Jan Brewer, Governor Brewer down there in Arizona, what she's trying to accomplish and trying to get the attention of Obama and the people inside that beltway. But it seems like they've kind of lost touch. But, you know, it's something that you gotta, you know, it's an issue, it's a problem, we got to deal with it. Here again, I'm kind of jumping around, but you know, it talks about, you know, we deal with the banning, the texting, ban on texting, you know, that type of thing. That's going to kick in here in about a week and a half, on July the 1st. And I don't do much of it, but I've done it in the past, and sometimes you just got to, you got to pull over, and you got to, maybe if you got to call somebody or talk to them, that type of thing. But what scares me, I'm going down the interstate a few months ago, and this semi driver in front of me, he's kind of doing this, you know, and I thought, well, maybe he's going to fall asleep or something. I finally get around him, and he's texting, you know, and that's a dangerous thing, you know. So, you know, we had a few Republicans, you know, voted against it. Because how do you really enforce texting and going back to the freedom thing and so forth? But I had about, based on my emails, and we did the numbers, probably close to 80% of the people, they wanted that to be banned. So, but anyway, that's coming into play here shortly. And also, we talk about government and all the what they impose on us down here. A campaign trail about a year ago, I talked to Norm Lowry there in Terre Haute. He's president of First Financial Bank. He used to be Terrell First National Bank, but Norm, I've known him for many years. And Norm told me that, he said, Bob, he says, as a community bank, and I might have shared this with some of you, but Norm told me, he said, Bob, as a community bank, we have to deal with 6,000 pages of regulation. Okay, again, the feds had told these banks, here's what you got to do, and there's 6,000 pages of that. You know, I didn't want to say, well, you know, let me see him, I don't believe you, but I mean, I trust him, you know. But that's the problem. We get all these regulations, and I talk to other small business owners, and you know, it seems like more and more regulations as far as in doing business, that type of thing. So, you know, basically, I'm kind of a guy that likes the government off my back. You know, I pay quarterly taxes, and I think if every American paid quarterly taxes, you know, they would really be mad at the IRS and government, you know. But anyway, it's kind of it's an issue that we deal with. But I'll you know, Dale, you made a comment a while ago about the Fourth Amendment and unlawful entry, and that brings me to my point here. I told Laura back in at one of the events over here at the bank, I don't know if it's March or in April, and she wanted me to come. I think, like, I told her maybe in July I could come, but I talked to Christy Risk, and when I was in Florida back last month, and she said, well, let's try to maybe get up here today, because what happened when that came about, when the that Richard Barnes case came to light, and it was voted 3-2 that for unlawful entry it was okay. Well, what my legislative assistant did, he sent out an email. It was kind of a general type, email that went out. And I should not have told him to send that out, but I did. At the time I was in Colorado for about 4 days, and then I got back for 2 days and then went to Florida. But that's when Chris had called me about, you need to come down here and talk to the Tea Party group and explain yourself and that type of thing. So my point is, like I told her, I said, well, State Senator Charbonneau from Republican from Valparaiso, I received an email from him like 6 weeks ago, along with State Senator Republican Mike Young from Indianapolis. And their intentions are to present a bill to override that, if you will, to reverse it. So anyway, there was like 71 of us signed a petition to do that. I was one of them, and I think there was a lot more that wasn't able to sign that petition who wants to. So it's going to be, I don't know, come January or when, it's going to be in there. But, it's kind of like, anybody can dress up as a cop and flash something and, knock the door down. Well, maybe they can do that, but as I told, I've got a 12-gauge automatic Benelli Black Eagle. Well, it's ready to go. And I don't want to sound, but I mean, that's something where we have to, but if they can, and I didn't say that just to get an applause, but I mean, if they can do that, what's next type of thing. Really, that's the whole problem, and that's what's the concern, is that, you like anything, you give somebody an inch, they'll take a yard or a mile, that type of thing. So it's, as I tell people, there's a lot of messed up things going on out here, and I'm not a doomsday guy. I'm really not. I'm always kind of, the glass is half full, or it's partly sunny instead of partly cloudy. But, and I've got some good people in my inner circle in Terre Haute that I really respect a lot. And this one guy, who kind of a mentor, he told me a few years ago, he thinks it may be too late, as far as the kind of debt we have. When you look at, you see the 14.4 trillion in debt, but on top of that, you look at Social Security, and you look at Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. You're getting into the 80-some, 90 trillion, and it just blows my mind. But there's a lot of, I can tell you, a million.